Okay, so let's start. So last time we have discussed the heat exchanger analysis using LMTD method. So now we will continue our discussion using the another method, which is effectiveness NTU method. So our objective for today is first uh, to introduce performance parameters for assessing the efficacy of heat exchangers, and next is to develop methodologies for designing a heat exchanger for predicting the performance of an or for predicting a performance of an existing heat exchanger operating under prescribed conditions. Okay, so this objective to develop methodologies for designing heat exchanger or for predicting the performance of an existing heat exchanger operating under prescribed conditions. So this will also be the scope of your technical report. So the instruction is currently ongoing. So I'm just finalizing it, and then I can give it to you within this week or tomorrow. So but it's still subject for ano pa pala for approval. So once I got the approval, so it will be posted on your Google Classroom. Okay, so yeah, with regards to the performance of heat exchanger, so we can evaluate it using the effectiveness NTU method. So it is almost similar with the previous method, which is the logarithmic mean temperature difference method. Okay, so just a recap. Last time, we have discussed the heat exchanger analysis, and we are already familiar with the overall heat transfer coefficient. So the overall heat transfer coefficient is an essential and often the most uncertain part of any heat exchanger analysis. So because the challenge here is we should determine the value of convection heat transfer coefficient for us to be able to get the value of U or overall heat transfer coefficient. So the convection heat transfer coefficient is can be derived through the use of correlations. If you can remember last time, we have an example wherein we use the Nusselt number to determine the value of age. And after that, after getting the value of age, we can determine the value of the overall heat transfer coefficient U. Okay. So also last week, I think we have solved example number 1 after discussing the lag mean temperature difference. So we solved a sample problem. So what's lag mean temperature difference again? So this is an appropriate mean temperature difference. So it can be specified as delta T sub m or lag mean temperature difference. So the formula for delta T sub m or delta T Lm is equivalent to delta T1 minus delta T2 over ln of delta T1 over delta T2. For a parallel flow and counterflow, the formula is the same. However, the formula for delta T1 and delta T2 differs because we have the consideration of the For parallel flow and counterflow, the formula for delta T1 and delta T2 is different because we have to consider the flow. For example, in parallel flow, so the inlet here is THI and TCI, and outlet is TCO and THO. So the formula will be THI minus TCI, and for delta T1, and for delta T2, it's THO minus TCO. However, for the counterflow, there's a different consideration since the flow of the fluid is opposite. So delta T1 will be THI minus TCO, while for the delta T2, it's TCI minus THO, or THO minus TCI rather. So yeah, this is the graphical representation of the temperature distribution for a counterflow heat exchanger. So you can see the delta T1 here and delta T2 here. This is for counterflow. For parallel flow, you can see the bigger value of delta T1 compared to delta T2. Okay, so there's a difference in terms of the LMTD value in parallel and counterflow. So now we will move on with the heat exchanger analysis, the effectiveness NTU method. So but before that, I want like to ask if you have any clarifications regarding LMTD method. Have we discussed it face to face or online last time? I think we discussed it face to face, no?
What po?
The example one.
Yes
Example
po.
one. Okay, thank you. Uh, this one, this example, I think we are done with example one. Okay, so now we will move on to our next topic, effectiveness NTU method. So the lag mean temperature difference method of heat exchanger analysis can be used when the fluid inlet temperatures are known. So as just like in example one. So and the outlet temperatures are specified also or readily determined from energy balance. So however, if only inlet temperatures are known, use of LMTD requires an iterative process. So it is then preferable to use an alternative approach, termed as the effectiveness NTU method. So effectiveness is defined as the ratio of the actual rate of heat transfer or heat exchanger to the maximum possible heat transfer rate. Okay, so this is the formula. E or epsilon. Epsilon is this epsilon anyway. So E equals Q over Q max. So this is the effectiveness NTU method. So the heat exchanger effectiveness can be defined using this equation. What is Q and what is Q max? Q is the actual rate of heat transfer while Q max is the maximum possible rate of heat transfer. So this effective NTU method is a more convenient method for predicting the outlet temperatures. So this method can be derived also from the LMTD method without introducing any additional assumptions. So therefore, the effectiveness NTU and LMTD methods are equivalent. So an advantage of the effectiveness NTU method is its ability to predict the outer temperatures without resulting or resorting to a numerical iterative solution of a system of nonlinear equations. In later discussions, so you will find out that the method for solving effectiveness NTU and LMTD is almost the same. So there is just an addition to the additional there will be just an additional parameters. So like this one, in order to calculate for the heat exchanger effectiveness, we must determine the ratio of Q over Q max. So Q is actual rate of heat transfer Q max, while Q max is equivalent to C minimum times temperature THI minus TCI. So in your module, you can find it also on page 111. Page 111. So by definition, the effectiveness, which is dimensionless, must be in range of 0 to 1. So greater than 0 but less than 1. So that's the effectiveness. So it is useful if the effectiveness, THI or temperature of hot fluid inlet and cold fluid inlet temperatures are known. So the actual rate of heat transfer can be determined from this expression. So we have Q equals effectiveness times Q max. So we have here, if we will determine the value of actual rate of heat transfer, we just have to multiply this equation by effectiveness E. So multiplied by E. So to determine the actual. So what is C min? C min is the or C minimum is the smaller of the two heat capacity rates, C of cold fluid and C of hot fluid. So whichever is smaller, for example, we have two fluids, the oil and water. So C of oil is greater than C of water. So therefore, the C minimum should be the C of water. So C minimum is the formula for C minimum is mass flow rate times specific heat. So you have to find the value of the mass flow rate and heats and specific heat in the table of properties for you to be able to calculate the value of C min. So okay. So what is NTU? NTU is the number of transfer units. So for example, in the problem, we are asked to determine how many units or how many heat exchanger units are needed to satisfy the uh, required rate of heat transfer. So using NTU method, we can determine that, or using NTU method, we can also determine the number of tubes. So how is that possible? Because we have here an A area, it pertains to the formula is pi dl, and the L then is the length of tube, and D is diameter. So if the value of the area is not yet enough, so we can multiply it by the number of the heat transfer unit for us to be able to achieve the requirement. Okay, so then the number of transfer units or NTU is a dimensionless parameters that is widely used for heat exchanger analysis, and It is defined as UA over C min. So U is overall heat transfer coefficient, A is area, just by dl, and C min is the minimum heat capacity. Okay, so there are some equations or formulas that you can find in your table. If you look on your green book, table 11.3 and table 11.4, there are some of the different equations that can be used to calculate for the E. So just like in this example, so we have E equals to 1 minus exponent of NTU 1 plus CR over 1 plus CR. So this is just an example of the formula. So this is for a single pass heat exchanger in parallel flow regime. So in counter flow regime, there is another equation. So this is different from the parallel flow. So as you can see, the flow has a big impact on the effectiveness. Okay. Okay, so going back. Okay, so we have here some example. Okay, if you look at your what you call this, your table, so you can find in table 11.3 or 11.4 if I'm not mistaken, but all of the formulas are there. So I'll just check. I will share to you. So I think we put that on the table already, so that during exam you don't have to memorize it. So this is table 11.3, and as you can see, there is a corresponding equation for every type of flow arrangement or type of heat exchanger. So for parallel and counterflow, this is the formula. If the problem is a shell and tube, so you can find the value of E or effectiveness given using the values or parameters like NTU, CR. So these two parameters are required for you to be able to calculate for the values of E or effectiveness. So this is for one shell pass, two for two passes. N passes of shell, N passes shell, two passes. So yeah, that's the formula. Okay. If a cross flow, so single pass, so this is both fluids unmixed. So this is now the formula. So we have NTU, we already know the NTU. How about the CR, or what is CR? So it is the ratio of, do we have here? C minimum versus C maximum. C min over C max. So that's CR or C ratio. So we have CR equals Cmin over Cmax. Okay. So this is table 11.4. If we need to calculate for the NTU, so there's another set of equations. So this is for calculating the effectiveness alone given the NTU and CR. So if we want to calculate the NTU, so we need to use table 11.4. So you don't have to rearrange equations. So to avoid rearranging, so we prepared another table. Here, the given is effectiveness NTU and CR. So you just have to calculate the NTU. Okay. So we have here some sample problems for you to be able to understand it better. So this is example 1. Let's proceed with example 2. So the condenser of a large steam power plant is a heat exchanger in which steam is condensed to liquid water. So assume the condenser to be shell and tube. So heat exchanger consisting of a shell and 30,000 tubes, each executing two passes. The tubes are of thin wall construction with D equals 25 mm, and steam condenses on their outer surface with an associated convection coefficient of HO equals 11,000 watt per square meter Kelvin. So the heat transfer rate must uh, be affected by the exchanger. Q equals 2 times 10 to the 9 watts, and this is accomplished by passing cooling water through the tubes at a rate of 3 times 10 to the 4th kilogram per second. So the flow rate per tube is therefore 1 kilogram per second. So the water enters at 20 degrees Celsius while steam condenses at 50. So what is the temperature of the cooling water emerging from the condenser? And what is the required length of pipe? Okay, so in this case, there is a very large heat exchanger which is a condenser. So paano ko nasabi or how did I say that it is very large? Because the number of tubes is 30,000. Yeah, 30,000 tubes is too much. So it's a big heat exchanger. So the purpose of heat exchanger here is to condense steam by flowing water. So I think there's no mention. I think the temperature of the steam is does not change because it only specifies 50 degrees. So it steam condenses at 50. So there's no other temperature provided for the steam. For the water, it enters at 20 degrees and then leaves at unknown temperature. So that's one of our parameters that needs to be calculated. So let's solve. Okay, so by the way, given the HO is already given. So to calculate for the value of U, it's 1 over HO plus 1 over HI. So we only need the value of HI because HO is already given in the problem. I'll give you 5 minutes to analyze this problem first, and then we'll after 5 minutes we will try to solve. So please let me know if there's something that's need to be clarified. If you have any clarifications. So after let's say 5 minutes, we can start. We will start again. We will discuss this problem. Okay, let's continue. So in this problem, the convection coefficient of the outer surface is already given. So HO is 11,000. So you don't have to calculate it already because it's already given. So we can now focus on calculating the HI. So once you calculate the HI, you can calculate now for the overall heat transfer coefficient U. Another thing, the actual heat transfer rate is also given. So we have 2 times 10 to the 9 watts, as well as the mass flow rate. So it is composed of a 30,000 tubes with 25 mm diameter. So, okay. So known heat exchanger consisting of a single shell and 30,000 tubes with 2 passes each. So how do you define the number of passes? So I think I have some example here of the number of passes. For example, it is said that it's only one pass. Yeah, this is a one pass heat exchanger. So one pass because all the tubes will all the I mean the flow of the water on or of the liquid on the tube is it will pass at the shell only once, no? So as you can see here, tubes side fluid inlet, so it will pass on the tubes inside the shell only at once because it's only one pass tube side. So but when we say two pass, just like this one, this is a two pass tube side. This is a fixed tube heat exchanger because the tubes are fixed on both ends. So as you can see, the fluid coming into the channel where the tubes are, so the fluid will go inside the tubes in the shell and then goes out and then goes inside again. So there is a second passage of the tube fluid inside the tubes. So there's a second pass on the shell. So first pass and then second pass and then goes outside fluid out. So that's a two pass heat exchanger. Going back to the question or to the problem, yeah, this one. So it's a 30,000 tubes with two pass each. Outlet temperature of cooling water is missing. Also, the tube length per pass to achieve the required heat transfer. Okay, so we can now provide a schematic. So this is our heat exchanger. So there is a tube here inside the heat exchanger. There's also some bubbles here. Okay, so the fluid flowing inside the shell is a steam, while inside the tubes are water. So meaning cold water. So meaning the steam will condense. So that steam will condense. So that's why it's called condenser. So when you create a schematic diagram, please don't forget to write to illustrate also the graphical representation. For example, here we have two fluid, the water, cold fluid, which is the water, and the hot fluid, which is a steam. So the temperature of the condensing steam is 50 degrees. So it will not change its temperature, it will only condense. While the temperature of the water from 20, it increases to, that's what we just have to, that's what we are going to figure out. The temperature of the water after passing through the shell or the tubes. So the assumptions are same as the previous example. So you have to write it as well because I provide some partial points for the assumptions. So here, negligible heat transfer between exchanger and surroundings and negligible kinetic and potential energy changes. So tube internal flow and thermal conditions fully developed. Negligible thermal resistance of tube material and fouling effects. So what when we say fouling effects, so it's the corrosion on the metal. If you remember last time I shared to you some of the problems on heat exchangers. So one of that is fouling or limiting the surface area because of the corrosion. So it is very crucial since it affects the performance of a heat exchanger. So we have to eliminate that problem. But in here, in our calculation, we do not consider the fouling effects. There's no consideration on the fouling effects. Additionally, there's a constant properties. So for us to be able to solve the uh, temperatures first, so you have to find the properties of the fluids. So here in the given is water. So we can assume the temperature of water for us to be able to find the properties in the table. So if you assume 20, so you will get a different answer. So it doesn't matter as long as your solution is correct. So you can assume different temperatures. Okay, so to analyze, you have to look for this value. So we have a table from table 8.6, a temperature of 27. Your density is 997, CP is 4179, and dynamic viscosity is 85.5. So please also get the value of K and the Prandtl number as well. So you don't have to go back and forth. So just by okay, so you just get it together with other values. So the cooling water outlet temperature may be obtained from the overall energy balance equation. So I think you're very familiar with the equation Q equals mCp delta T. So from that, we can calculate the value of the temperature of the cold fluid coming out, or the TCO, using mCp delta T. So what will be our equation? So we have TCO equals TCI plus Q over mCpc. Mass flow rate of cold fluid, Cp of cold fluid. So we have given the TCI is given, which is 20 degrees. So when you check on the problem, TCI is 20. So it's given here on the graph. So yeah, that's 20. And then Q is also given. Q is 2 times 10 to the 9. We have M. So here we consider the mass flow rate of 30 tubes, 30,000 tubes. Okay, so 20 degrees plus Q is 2 times 10 to the 9 over M is 3 times 10 to the 4th. Multiplied natin ang specific heat from the table of properties. Okay? So you will come up with this value 36 degrees Celsius. So we can now put here 36. Okay? So that's our value of the temperature coming out of the tubes. So from 20, it comes out as 36. So the heat is being transferred to the water. Although the temperature of the steam doesn't change, it only condenses. Okay. So so the problem may be classified as one requiring a heat exchanger design calculation. So first, we determine the overall heat transfer coefficient or use in the NTU method. So this is the overall heat transfer coefficient, and we have the formula 1 over Hi plus 1 over Ho. We already have the value of Ho, which is 2 times 10 to the 9. So we only just have to calculate for the value of Hi. Okay, so to calculate for the value of Hi, we have to use the correlations that I have told you during our first lessons with convection heat transfer. Okay, so to calculate to determine what correlations should be used, so we have to determine first the if the flow is laminar or turbulent. So how can we determine if the flow is laminar or turbulent? So by taking the value of Reynolds number. So we have the equation for calculating the Reynolds number given the mass flow rate. So we have 4m over pi d times dynamic viscosity. So we have 4. So we have mass flow rate of 1 kilogram per second. So this is in consideration for only one tube. So this 3 times 10 to the 4 kilogram per second is for 30,000 tubes. So for one tube, it's 1 kilogram per second. And then we have pi times diameter of tube, which is 25 mm. And then the value of dynamic viscosity is 855 times 10 to the 6, negative 6 seconds per Newton seconds per square meter. So this is from the table 8.6 as well. So we got this value 59,567 for the Reynolds number. So do you think this is laminar or turbulent? Is it laminar or turbulent? So the flow is a turbulent flow because it's greater than 4,000. So using the heat exchanger, the convection correlations, so we can use this equation since this is a turbulent flow and a circular pipe or circular tube. We can use this equation. Can you find it on the? You can find it also as well on the green book. So just remember that it's an internal flow correlation and internal flow then circular geometry. So this is the perfect correlations that we need to. This is the correct correlations that we need to implement or to use. So we have Nusselt number equals 0.023 times 59,567 or Reynolds number raised to the zero point 0.8 multiplied by Prandtl number. So this Prandtl number is also from the table 8.6. So we have 308 Nusselt number. So that's our Nusselt number. So now that we have a Nusselt number, we can now find the value of H or convection heat transfer coefficient. So the formula for H is Nusselt number times K over D. So it's the formula. So we have Nusselt number, which is 308. K is 0.613. So this is from the properties again. Our diameter is 0.025 meter or 25 mm. So you will get this value 7,543 watt per square meter Kelvin. Any question? So far, nakakasunod pa ba lahat? Can you follow? Can you still follow? Okay, good. So that's our convection heat transfer coefficient, 7543 watt per square meter Kelvin. So now we have that HI, we also have HO. So we can now solve for the value of U, which is 1 over 1 over HI, which is 7543, plus 1 over HO, which is 11,000. So this is 11,000. This 11,000 is given on the problem. So we have the U value of 4,474 watt per square meter Kelvin. Okay, so going back, so we already have the U value. So we can now calculate for the what you call this, the length of the tubes, because the formula for the length is not actually length but area. So if you recall, this is our formula for the NTU. So you have UA over C min. So A is pi dl. So L equals C minimum times NTU over U times pi d. So that's the formula for the L or length of the tube. So we already have U. So C min, we don't have the value yet. So you have to calculate for the C min first, and then we have NTU. You should calculate NTU as well. So unahin natin, let's go first with C min. So the formula is M times CP. So we have mass flow rate of 30,000 kilogram per second times CP ng water is 4179. So we have K is 1.25 times 10 to the 8 watt per Kelvin. So that's our C minimum. CH is C maximum equals infinity. So this is based on the design calculation methodology. So we have C max, which is infinite, and C min, we have the value for the water. So the ratio of C min over C max is equivalent to CR, which is the value C minimum over infinity equals 0. So CR is 0. So the maximum possible heat transfer rate is Q max equals C minimum times THI minus TCI. So we have the value C minimum. THI is 50. So from the graph, THI is 50 and then TCI is 20. So 50 minus 20. So it is equivalent to 3.76 times 10 to the 9 watts. So that's Q max. Now we can now solve for the E or effectiveness. So it's the ratio of Q or heat transfer rate over heat transfer rate maximum. So Q max is 3.76 times 10 to the 9. So while the Q equals 2 times 10 to the 9, so it's given on the problem. So we can get a value that is dimensionless, and that's the efficiency, effectiveness, E. Okay. So do you have any question? Can you still follow on the value of E? Did you get also the value of E, which is 0.532? Okay, so next one, since we know the value of E, we can solve for the NTU. So we have formula. This is the formula for NTU. It's on your table, table 11.4. So heat exchanger NTU relations. Okay, so which among here should be used? So we have the value of CR equals 0. So we can use this equation. NTU equals negative of ln 1 minus E. So can you please try to solve the value of NTU using this equation? CR equals 0. 11.35B. So it's on your in your table. Okay, so if we solve, can you check if it's 0.759? Is this correct? 0.759 NTU?
Correct po.
Okay, thank you. So you already have this value 0.759. So we can now solve the value of length using this equation. So NTU equals UA over C minimum. So we have length equals NTU times C minimum over U times pi d. So why did we multiply it by the number of tubes N2? Because your C minimum is also multiplied by the number of tubes. As you can recall, your C minimum value is the mass flow rate times Cp. The mass flow rate here is 3 times 10 to the fourth, which is equivalent to 30,000 tubes. So this one is should also be divided by 30,000 tubes. Okay, so for should be consistent. So we have NTU is 0.759 times C minimum, which is 1.25 times 10 to the 8. So this is the value C minimum. 1.25 times 10 to the 8. Okay. And then U is 4,474 watt per meter squared. So this is what we have. This is from what we have solved earlier for 474. Okay. And then D is 0.025 and then multiply it by 30,000. So we can get the value 4.51 meter. Okay. Did you get it as well? Is it correct? Can you please verify 4.51 meters? 4.5017. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have this 4.51 meters. So this is the required length of the tubes inside the heat exchangers. So in your technical report, you can use these sample problems in other problems to design a heat transfer equipment. Excuse me. So okay, so we already done with solving the required, which is the outlet temperature, which is 36 degrees, and tube length per pass to achieve required heat transfer. So the answer is 4.51. Thank you. So do you have any question? Okay, so if you don't have any question, let's proceed with another topic. So we have shell and tube heat exchanger basic calculations. Okay, so the most common type of heat exchanger in industrial applications is the shell and tube heat exchangers. So these heat exchangers exhibit a more than 65% of the market share with a variety of design experiences of about 100 years. So shell and tube heat exchanger provide typically the surface area density ranging from 50 to 500 square meter per cubic meter and are easily cleaned. So the design codes standards are available in the TIMA Tubular Exchanger Manufacturers Association. Okay, as you can see on our screen, this is the shell and tube heat exchanger. So yan yung pinaka-common na type ng heat exchanger. So that's the most common type of heat exchanger. So we have here a U-bend or U-tube. So there's a U-bend here. I think they are all U-tubes. Yeah, but just one type. So another type is a fixed tube. This one, I think it's a fixed tube type. So not bended. Tubes are not bended like this, unlike this. And then I think we are done with the heat exchanger softwares I have introduced to you last time. In your technical report, you will apply uh, any simulation software for the heat exchanger performance. Could be ANSYS or any other software. So in simulation, you can use a 3D model created from other software, like for example SolidWorks. You can use that you can import that model to simulate in ANSYS. I think there's an interface, or there's a way where we can import 3D models to ANSYS. So you can use your other softwares like SolidWorks and then create a 3D model there and then i- import that model to ANSYS. So there are tutorials that we can use for if you don't know yet how to use this software. So it's free. I sent you the instructions or the website before in our GC. You just have to find it. Okay. Okay. So we have shell and tube heat exchanger basic calculations. So the optimum thermal design of a shell and tube heat exchanger involves consideration of many interacting design parameters, which can be summarized as follows. So process, mechanical. So process engineers, they are the one who process fluid assignments to shell side or tube side and selection of stream temperature and specifications. They are also the one who sets shell and tube side pressure drop or design limits, and they are the one who set the tube side velocity limits and the selection of transfer models and volume coefficients for shell side and tube side. So the work of mechanical engineers, so process are usually chemical engineers. So they know the whole process, so that's why they are very familiar with the fluid assignments. While mechanical engineers, the work is more on the selection of heat exchanger type, for example, shell and tube, with the TIMA layout and number of passes. So we are the one create who do this task, and then we are also the one who specify the tube parameter size, layout, and material. We are the one who set the upper and lower design limits of tube length. So that's why we are calculating the length of the tube, because in the outside or in the industry, it's also mechanical engineer who calculates for the tube length. Also, the specification of shell side parameters, materials, bubble cuts, bubble spacing, and clearances. So it's also part of the task of mechanical engineers, setting upper and lower design limits on shell diameter, bubble cut, and bubble spacing. Okay, so that's the role of process engineers and mechanical engineers. So by the way, I think uh, regarding the previous example, we have discussed the E value. So you can also find the E value in the table, in the graph, I mean. So I think I have here some graph. You can turn to your page, to your module. Okay, so I will share to you the graph. I'll just copy it na lang on the slides. I think can you look for your table and find this graph? So is it in your table? Because you will use it in your exam, during your exam. Thank you po. So you can use it. You should have this graph on your table. Please check. So here you can find the value of the effectiveness given the ratio of C min over C max. So this graph is for parallel flow exchanger performance. The other graph is for counterflow exchanger performance. So yeah, you can also find the value of effect E on the graph by graph. So you just have to get the value of C min over C max, and then if plot the number of transfer units. If the number of transfer units is given, for example, 4, and the ratio of C min over C max is 0.75, so the value of your effectiveness is 4, 55%, 0.55. So that's how you get the value of E. Okay. Okay. So far, do you have any question regarding our discussion? Okay. So I already uploaded the problem sets. So the technical report I will first seek for approval of the instructions. And then once I got the approval, so I will also update the guidelines of the technical report. And okay, so if you don't have any questions, see you again next meeting. Next meeting. Thank you. Please solve your please solve your practice problems on the module. So it will be a big help for you to answer your all the questions in the final exam. So it will be a big help if you practice solving. That's my only tip. Yes, Anthony.
Sir, excuse po. About po dun sa gagawin namin, yun pong anak sa groupings. Kailan ko po ang deadline nun?
Okay. So the technical report will be maybe after the final exam. So originally, it should be before the final exam, but due to different holidays, we will not be able to present it on time. So the presentation should be after before the final exam, but due to some holidays and uh, suspension of classes, so it will be moved. I think after final exam. So after final exam will be the submission. So it's by group. It's a group effort, so it will not be. I think it will not be that a great burden because you can share the task on your members. So okay. So yeah. Any other questions? So please distribute the task so you will be able to accomplish your your report on time. So the target date is after the exam, so we will present. So it because it will be the grade of your final presentation will be considered if you pass or fail the subject. Thank you. Okay, see you again next meeting.